And I will now give the floor to Alejandro Rojas. He is the manager of the International Airport of Aguas, Calientes. He will moderate this first panel of the day. So Alejandro, you have the floor. You know, you have 1 hour. Thank you very much, Javier. Welcome you all and very good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today in this new day for all of us. The year 2021 is the year of security culture on civil aviation. This special on this special event, we will have the participation of Ricardo Delgado, regional specialist on security of aviation and facilitation in the ICAO. And then after his presentation, we will have José María Peral, Pecharromán. He is a regional specialist of security in aviation and facilitation, also from the regional office of North America, Central America, and Caribbean of the ICAO. It is very important on this day to speak about safety on aviation and SEMS. And we will speak about this year on security culture. So without any further ado, I wish you all a fruitful day and I give the floor to Ricardo, our dear friend and colleague, so that he can share his knowledge and experience regarding this year on security culture for civil aviation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alejandro. Good morning, everybody. To all those of you who are privileged enough to participate in this kind of wonderful events. And thanks to this group, the Grupo Aeroportuario del Pacífico, I believe this is a joint effort apart from the additional activities of this year, which is dedicated to security culture. Alejandro, let me share my screen so I can start with my presentation. Can you see my presentation? It's on your screen, right? Yes, we can see it perfectly, Ricardo. All right, thank you very much. So the key in the agreement, which is known as the Chicago Agreement or the Agreement on International Civil Aviation, means a lot of responsibilities for the states, and not only for security in aviation and facilitation. Let's say that we in these two areas, those who are involved, all the stakeholders who work in this, we have a great passion, but there are many other areas that we do not deal with so much, probably safety, operational safety, and other different fields. The situation, the specific situation of this agreement is the responsibility of the states on these different fields, how they can be managed. And this is related to today's topic, the topic of security. Let's say that in 2019, it was declared that 2021 would be the year of security culture. We know that this was planned, but you know, fate or the destiny doesn't necessarily help us in succeeding with our plans. And this is, of course, the pandemic. It meant we had to delay these plans in order to raise awareness about security. And this is why in 2020 this couldn't be done, and the symposium that was carried out in December 2018, from the 14th to the 18th of December, last year, on the last day, the Secretary General confirmed the need to declare and to continue with declaring 2021 the year of security culture. And this conveys raising awareness specifically among all those who are involved, all those of us who are stakeholders in civil aviation, and those of us who have a task or a role in providing protection. So amongst the goals of this year, the ICAO declared that the main idea was that the industry of aviation should be involved. So the industry was encouraged, such as airlines, airports, couriers, uh, air transport, the freight forwarders, all those involved with refueling, for example, the aircrafts, all those people should be present in this common awareness within security culture. The second goal was to generate awareness about security, the advantage of having people involved, of making them part in the operations of civil aviation, mainly to reach a balance in this case. And what can be the security in aviation, the operational security and the facilitation that the passengers or travelers would have when they go through our facilities, airports or aircrafts that they get on board to be transported. Another goal was to promote a culture of efficient security in the sense that it should be useful and also for it to be sustainable a long time. This is mainly related to the value that it can work as a support by higher administrations. So we should receive the endorsement of administrations. For us to think about it, that security is a responsibility for everybody. I don't know whether you heard the phrase saying there is a responsibility for everyone. This means there is a responsibility for nobody. Then how can we understand that security is a responsibility of everybody? Well, the key, specific key, is precisely this awareness raising, because we need to believe we are all part of it, that your involvement, your personal involvement, your participation, the way you think, your activity, your role will will entail that your responsibility will be part of this whole world involving everyone, which will lead to protection of civil aviation. And this doesn't only convey high-ranking people in the industry, I mean the top management. This should be for everybody, all the personnel, the assistants who never leave their desk, who only open letters, who only answer emails, but who are involved in the relation with security. So this should not only be for the top management, but for every employee, the taxi drivers. These are all people who are in some way or another related to this activity, and they should be part of this awareness and the year of security culture. And these all generates the conclusion that security is a responsibility of everybody, and this will lead us to receive support for the year or the global plan for security on aviation. This leads us to developing security culture and the human capacity. This is what we know as GASEP. This is the global plan for aviation security. So even if this is something that is not new, sometimes we do understand it, but we do not bring it into practice. So the ICAO did something special, which was creating a secretariat. It created some means for the security culture to be brought into practice, to be something effective and to be effectively implemented. And it created a website of security culture, which you can see here. We will of course share this presentation. The organizers will share it for those of you who wish to have it afterwards. So no worries, it will be accessible. So again, in this website, you can find articles, orientation, you can find tools, you can find practical information regarding resources in order to promote this awareness and for it to be robust and to be efficient. And part of these tools is also an initial package, which is a campaign about security culture. And this involves mainly um, different kinds of advertisements and these different pocket cards that will facilitate this year and the understanding of the security culture. Important advice that ICAO has developed around the security culture. Well, we could say that one of the tools, not only within this package, but also resources that can be shared, resources that can support those who have the initiative of creating awareness. This is something similar, for example, to the cards to access the airports. These access cards we had in the past. Well, of course, this person, before receiving the access card, has gone through a training course, either virtual course or face-to-face course, so that this person can know what are the specific requirements in order to use this access card. So this is about knowledge and about creating a security culture. The specific idea behind would be that we have to carry on with that on a specific way, on a clearer way, and to try to involve through either workshops or any other types of events, webinars, seminars, these type of information to be shared, and that will of course help to improve awareness and to make everyone really feel part of this protection of civil aviation. The ICAO is also developing these different online packages with information, films that can be used to be shared and to disseminate information. So we encourage you to go to this website and take a look at all the different resources that the ICAO provides. However, obviously, this part doesn't only fall on the shoulders of ICAO. These world initiatives would ideally reach all the states and the regions and the industry itself and the organizations, in the sense that they are all essential, they are all crucial. This um, this relevance starts with the very minor tasks by cleaning the airport, for example, and finds a small package, for example, or that finds a face mask on the floor. So everyone counts, and this again is part of the security culture that we want to encourage. And so within these world initiatives, this should be promoted. This year on security culture should be promoted. And we also want to achieve a specific awareness in the future about protection in our airports, in our aircrafts, in our facilities, and all the suppliers that have to do with that. We also need, in other words, their support and feedback, of course. Support because you may also create within your organizations or your states specific events and share them. And share them definitely with the ICAO. These kind of initiatives can encourage many colleagues and many neighboring countries or other companies finally feel the motivation to do something similar or even better, who knows. So My colleague here, Jose Maria, and me are here available to share information because this is so positive. And this, of course, if you agree, we can share it on the website about the security culture so we can create or replicate different events that would generate motivation amongst all of us and get the support from one another. We should also promote campaigns for security culture. I think this year it would be great at least to have one or two activities in the airport community. It doesn't mean you have to do a special lunch on a monthly basis, of course, because we have COVID-19, but maybe some virtual events, you can do that. And you know very well what this challenge can mean in your places, what kind of vulnerabilities you may have in your facilities. And these kind of events may help people who live and coexist with you in your airports and live in your facilities could be careful enough or can also support in order to take care of these potential weak parts of the chain. Within these practical measures, well, the main purpose is to get specific support that should be coming not only from high-level authorities and not only through policies and procedures improving the security culture, but also through regular communications or regular material, um, publicity material that can encourage your own community about this subject matter. Then informative sessions. It's important to keep all our people informed what's going on, what could happen, what can be done. The risk evaluation is very important to have everyone participating on a risk evaluation session. But if we do not generate awareness that they are all part of the chain, the only thing we will do is to give a bad image and probably scare people about what could be happening. So it is important to train everybody. And within this initial or regular training, we have to highlight the fact that each and everyone should be part and should be responsible to immediately report any situation that is not a normal or a usual situation. And within these practical measures, we also urge you to use tools for online training and digital means. Because if there is something positive about the pandemic, um, even if it has moved us away from the physical world, it made us get closer to digital means. And this is, of course, a type of communication that we have to exploit and to use. Then we have the use of communication platforms, mainly with our internal personnel. And if possible, we could also share information with other organizations, other companies, so that we can all bring this positive security culture on a harmonized way, on a standardized way. Then we also should establish reporting systems. Those of you who are enabled in the quality reports, it is urged for the states, the authorities, and even the companies, the industry itself has a reporting system in place that guarantees the protection of the information that is informed or reported and that is anonymized so that weak points can be identified, because after a risk analysis, these may have gone missing. And these kind of reporting systems are so important for that. The task of the involving here everybody will lead us to a success, because this reporting system enables everybody to be part of the community. and be part of the community in such a way. It seems I'm having some technical problems. I'm sorry I cannot zoom in, but I'm just going to show you my last slide. This is the information with the two contact details as regional specialist, myself, and my colleague Jose Maria. You can contact us any point at any moment. And if you have any kind of suggestion, you can also get in touch with the project team of the Year of Security Culture, the YOSC. And then we have the website of Security Culture of the ICAO. That's the website I was telling you about. I'm sure I didn't tell you anything new, but my main goal was to, well, to finish by saying that the responsibility is in everyone and involving and willingness and the attitude is so important for this to become a reality. Thank you very much. I will now stop sharing my screen and I will give the floor back to my colleague. Yes, Ricardo? Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes, perfect. Again, thank you very much, Ricardo, for your presentation. It was really clear. You are so right in what you were mentioning about this situation that led us to move the year of security culture into the year 2021. And we have to take that into account. You were speaking about attitude in your last words and the fact that all the air operators, all the states, all the members of this industry should use these processes with what you were sharing today about the websites of the year on the security culture of civil aviation, these videos you're working on, these different workshops, and this part of the culture that could mm, be reflected in all the different fields of our airports. The support and the feedback is, of course, crucial. And probably the member states of the ICAO and my group, the Grupo Aeroportuario del Pacífico, when I speak with my colleagues in Mexico, we should all encourage this feedback and promote it in the heart of our own organizations and promote it with all the different airlines, airports, and so on.
Okay, moving on with our agenda, we're going to give the floor to José María Peral, a regional specialist in civil aviation. He works for the North America, Central America, and the Caribbean Regional Office at ICAO. And we're going to talk about SEMS at ICAO. And we're going to open your mic in a few seconds. Welcome in the meantime. Happy to see you again.
Vale, estupendo. Pues buenos días a todos.
Okay, so welcome everyone. I will just mention, just to make the cut story short, that I shared the desk with Ricardo. He's got a wealth of expertise in the region and I just limit myself to learning from him. I would like to thank the organizers and the Borreda Foundation and Segurilatam and the sponsors, GAP and the other sponsors. We're just honored to participate in this type of initiative to promote this culture of security, particularly now in the year of security culture. Now, building on my colleague Ricardo's comments, I would like to say that beyond the website specifically dedicated to this event, the Year of Security Culture in Aviation, we have a website on COVID-19. And then we have monitoring site. The different states have designated a point of contact and they introduce level of compliance of the recommendations made. Those 20 recommendations mentioned by Ricardo earlier. So if you're not familiar with this, I do invite you to take a look, and we can discuss questions later on. Okay, so my presentation is slightly more dry than the previous one. Let me see if I can share my screen. I understand you can see this. Okay.
Vale, perfecto. Vamos a hablar sobre el sistema de gestión de seguridad
So
de la
we're going to talk about how we manage security in aviation. What are the security management systems? This concept is relatively new in aviation security, but in operational security, it's actually a long-standing idea. This is just a matter of transferring the parameters and the management tools used to control and monitor operational security, while using all of these on security in aviation. Of course, looking at intent and threats and our usual characteristics in operational security, however, they talk in different terms. So the system has been adapted and tropicalized for our purposes. So when do we talk about security management system? What's the manual at the ICAO? Well, this initiative has evolved in the industry. We'll talk about the objectives and benefits, the key components of the SEMS, and then we'll finalize this presentation with a couple of examples. IATA, the Airline Association, has been the main promoter of this concept, and Avianca, which in 2019 finalized implementing a security management system in civil aviation. So the main reference where there's a reference to the security management system within the ICAO is document 8973, the Aviation Security Manual. In this manual, it says that an SEMS is a structured approach to managing security as an integral part of a company or institution's overall business. At the end of the day, SEMS or SEMS is a tool for systematically integrating security risk management into an entity's day-to-day operation in close alignment with other risk management systems. So as you know, for a while now, in our Annex 17, our recommendations and so on, we've been making the point of risk analysis, and we've indicated that the states must set security rules based on a specific risk analysis that assesses the possibility, well, of a threat arising. So the SEMS is a systematic oversight of security measures and risk management, and therefore there are several parameters that need to be defined within the institutions where this is going to be done. And then you can see this in the second point, the security management systems are designed to be integrated with or connected to a safety management system. Let's say the SEMS is the little brother of the SMS. And finally, quite an important mention, the SEMS is not mandatory. It's a way of complying with certain requirements by ICAO as setting some quality guidelines and then systematic risk analysis that takes into account the efficacy of security measures, but they're not mandatory. states don't necessarily need to implement an SEMS, and entities are not obliged to implement it either. There are certain institutions as IATA that requires members to establish an SEMS, and the airlines under the oversight or monitoring of EOSA are also recommended to establish this.
Bueno, en cuanto a las ventajas del SEMS, pues bueno, esto va...
What are the advantages of a CMS? Well, this is in line with this culture of security. We want to raise awareness among our staff about how SCMS helps meet security guidelines within an entity. It encourages a dynamic security approach based on risk analysis. It enables us to identify, manage, and mitigate security risks consistently and proactively. Because thanks to the SEMS, there must be guidelines and procedures set up where dealing with risks is done in a systematic fashion. And then performance is key. Evaluating performance, the results and the impact is key. So for this, we really need to define some key performance indicators to monitor how successful the measure you're undertaking is. And then we want surveillance to be data-driven increasingly more. This connected with artificial intelligence and automatic analysis of databases and so on helps do some technological treatment or some data mining of all the data taken so that we can draw insights from there and that can be useful for decision making higher up. And it's also meant to promote effective internal and external partnerships, collaboration, and cooperation. This is particularly true for entities where there are third parties and that need to maintain certain quality parameters. Okay, so this target or bullseye here is quite thick with words, but these are just the basic components of the SEMS. Now, this does not necessarily mean there is a structural organization, but rather within each entity, there are different ways of having key components within the area. In some small organizations, might make sense to take decisions at head of area level, but in other larger organizations, maybe decisions should be taken by committees, and training will have different components. We might need online training in bigger organizations, but in smaller organizations, face-to-face is sufficient. Well, in general terms, just to summarize these key components, I will say that we need the responsibility and the commitment of the management. The management must be committed to effectively using the SEMS once implemented. The SEMS is just going to provide data, but data need to be interpreted and insight need to be drawn from it. And we need to act based on the parameters that we get That's why it's important for the management to trust the established system. And then regarding the resources, well, it's quite important to establish the recruitment policy. How are we going to screen for our people? What type of background information we need from them? And what's the basic training for the different jobs? And what's the training on security measures? And managing risks and threats. As we've mentioned already, the SEMS must systematically present the threats and the risks. And as we normally do in risk management systems, we would have to take the decision, see if this is a risk we can live with, it's not acceptable, or it's a low risk. Now, it's very important to set up ongoing improvements, oversight, and notifications. How are we going to act in the face of an incident? And the last two parameters are first, an SEMS training program and training within the organization as a whole, and then the communication channels, both internally for the staff and externally for third parties who work within our organization.
¿Cómo interpreta IATA
Okay, and this is how IATA interprets this key component system. As you can see, according to IATA, the SEMS is based on 3 pillars: the threat assessment and risk management, then the aviation security program. In this case, we're talking about an entity. Well, it would be applied to an entity, but if we want to implement it at state level, then we would have to talk about a national aviation security program. And then the third pillar, which is emergency and incident management and how to react to emergencies. How can we guarantee resilience in the organization? And then there are other concepts underpinning these 3 pillars: resource management, hiring and training personnel, the commitment of the top management, and then quality control and assurance, which is something that must be undertaken by all areas of the organization. And then this is just an example. In 2019, we did a seminar in Colombia, and we repeated it in Mexico City the year afterwards. And the truth is that Avianca's presentation on both was right on the dot. They made a beautiful presentation about the different stages they had gone through until they had implemented an SEMS fully within the organization. So first and foremost, they had to do a gap analysis. Then they defined an implementation plan. Then they set out to say, this is how we're going to use the SEMS, what's our policy, what are our targets, what are going to the communication channels going to be, how are we going to get organized? They decided to do it through communities. And then this was translated into the parameters to be measured, where these indicators were included together with a contingency plan. And then the final concept was tested, and we did audits, voluntary reporting, and training of employees. Of course, this is a circular process. Once you get the outcome of audits and etc., we need to act on the system to improve and minimize the undesired outcomes. Now, regarding Avianca's SEMS, it involved not only security, but it was actually made extensive tool areas of the company, starting with operational security. Now, in the case of Avianca, when making decisions, they decided to have a security committee. It's right there in the middle of the screen. Besides the voluntary reporting and the audit reports, they decided to go for some, well, ethical considerations as input to establish the output and analyze parameters. So all parameters were put into a database, and from there, findings were extracted that needed to be worked on. And all of this was dealt by a security committee that eventually decided if those incidences were acceptable, non-acceptable, unacceptable rather, or low. Of course, we wanted to reduce the unacceptable to the bare minimum. It's not just one solution to implement the SEMS. Implementing it in an airline or an airport or civil aviation authorities is different. So I wouldn't say that it's just something that you can take right off the manual and implement it as it is. No, you really need to see how it's going to adapt to your organization and give it put some thought into it. So at ICAO, we're not directly supporting states in the implementation of an SEMS, but we are aware, and in some regional areas, we know that some countries have started to make their way towards the implementation of an SEMS, but we don't support directly this transition. I will say, though, that there are events put together in collaboration with IATA and so on to try and promote this approach. We established some surveillance and parameters that we need to monitor, but nevertheless, I need to say that COVID-19 has altered our plans significantly, and well, the latest events have really taken precedent over all of this. Nevertheless, in the future, we will try to continue progressing towards this, and if you're interested in this, you're invited to get in touch with us. We are your regional office, and we will be more than happy to support you. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for your attention. And Alejandro, the floor is yours. Back to you. Well, thank you, Jose Maria, for your talk. Thank you very much for helping us reinforce these ideas on the SEMS.